Hello everyone, welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of September 18th through the 24th of 2017. I am Kiana Mayfield from LibraLunaCenter.com, and this week, specifically today, we are having a new moon in Virgo. I'm so sorry for the tardiness of this video, but this particular full moon is a very important one because it is closing out a cycle that we have been in with the Leo archetype, as we've had two new moons in Leo for the past 2 months, right, back to back, and this is the first new moon that will be in a different sign, which is Virgo, and it is harvesting the energy and the heart frequency that was initiated into us during this eclipse season. So in the beginning of the week, on Monday, on the 18th, we had the moon in Virgo, which was sort of the propeller into this new moon phase, but it was in its balsamic phase, right? The balsamic new moon phase. The moon and the sun being in the same sign is sort of a similar type of energy to the new moon, but since the moon was before the degree of the sun, right, in the early stages of Virgo, it was in its balsamic phase. So the moon in Virgo had conjuncted the Mars-Mercury conjunction, right? As well as Venus in Leo had just come to the eclipse degree, right? So the eclipse degree is 28 degrees Leo, which is where the total solar eclipse in Leo had initiated us into this phase. And Mercury has already passed this area, Mars is past this area, and now Venus is the final culmination, the final fruition of whatever was downloaded into us during this time period. So this is a very fruitful time to sow what we have been reaping, right? And as well to sow new seeds, which is what this new moon is asking us all to do, right? To sow new seeds for our future. The future based on who we have become with this solar eclipse in Leo and with the North Node in Leo, right? So with the moon conjuncting Mercury and Mars, this is stimulating a part of us that is ready and prepared and determined, right? But as well hesitant because it is opposing Neptune, right? All of this energy was opposing Neptune. So it's almost as if there's this propeller, this boat that we're all sort of gathering in, right? That Virgo has prepared for us in order to face the stormy sea, Neptune and Pisces, right? It's almost as if this is, especially because this new moon in Virgo will not be having any sort of conversation with the nodal axis, right? So since the North Node is no longer in Virgo, there's not as much pressure, right? There's not as much karma around the decisions we're making now, right? Karma in the sense that we have to outdo patterns that the South Node is sort of, you know, keeping us held back, right? The Virgo energy is no longer held back in that sense. It's no longer so focused in one single area. It is looking at every area of your life, right, and how you can apply this new archetype of Virgo that is being implemented now into your life in every area of your life. So this is a very good time to improve, to fix, to solve, to come to a greater awareness of your physical reality. Because especially because Venus is conjuncting the eclipse point, this is the reward, right? Everything that we've been gathering in, right? If you think of this Virgo season, right? If you think of this Virgo season and our life in general being sort of a basket weave, right? A basket that that we've been gathering in, the fruits and the rewards and the resources we'll need to take with us along this new chapter we're stepping into, right? Venus in Leo conjuncting the eclipse point is the closing of that cycle, right? Because it is the final receiving, it is the final understanding, it is the sensation of the eclipse versus the mental understanding or the processing or the download itself, because we've already had the download, right? But now it's becoming physical, it's becoming actualized, it's becoming manifested, which Venus rules as well, right? Manifestation and the attraction of what we desire. And this is bringing everything full circle now, right? Because as we have been sort of clearing house within ourselves as well as in our physical lives as well, right? There's been a lot, especially with the energy that was culminated during the full moon in Pisces, right, which was ending the 6-month cycle since February earlier this year, right? We've been hankering and holding on to a part of our old lives all of this time until now, right? And that old part of ourselves was the part of ourselves that lived in confusion, that lived in the clutter, that was okay with being sort of out in the wilderness, right? Sort of out at sea without a paddle boat, without any sort of vehicle to progress towards its destination, right? The destination being Saturn and Sagittarius. And as we've been lost at sea, right, all we've been doing is allowing the currents to kind of take us where they may, right? But now, with this paddle boat, this lifeboat that is being offered to us through this new moon in Virgo, we are taking direction. We are taking control over the course of where we are directed, right? We are able to steer the ship in the direction towards our destination, towards our desired destination, which was revealed to us over these last few months now. So whatever you're feeling deep down inside of you, especially with Mercury now, especially on Tuesday as this new moon is happening, which is the ruler of Virgo, right? So there's an extra emphasis to this conversation. Mercury in Virgo, just coming out of shadow on the 19th, which is Tuesday this week, right? Same day as the new moon, coming out of shadow at 11 degrees and quickly coming into, after that, exact opposition with Neptune retrograde, right? So it's coming face to face with what we want. It's coming face to face with our confusion, right? It's coming face to face with our unconscious, right? There is this desire to, and as well, this transition to true understanding of the source of our confusion, right? It's like understanding the unknowable, right? The unseen forces. There is this part of us that is in tune with the highest frequency of what we want now, right? Especially because Neptune is no longer having a conversation with the South Node. There is sort of this freedom to dream, to imagine without getting lost in it, right? And so with this new moon in Virgo, not only will we be making a square over to our destination, Saturn and Sagittarius, it will also be making a quincunx over to Uranus retrograde. So the lifeboat we're being offered now is in tune with our new identity, right? The new identities we've cultivated for ourselves, right? And it's not as if this will be an easy adjustment, right? It's not as if this will be easy to adapt ourselves to, because a quincunx in and of itself is a very tricky aspect in the sense that you have to grow, you have to expand, and you have to think outside the box of what you would originally orchestrate your patterns of behavior to be, right? So Virgo has to be much more, now this new moon in Virgo is requiring us to be much more in touch with our inner fire, right? Our inner flame, our courage, our drive, our determination to build a new identity, right? To build the new life that supports this identity. And there is sort of this this teeter-totter between the old world and the new world, right? And how do we find that balance? How do we get to work in the right way, in the way that is able to adjust, able to work for this new identity we have been cultivating, right? And during the new moon, Venus will be moving into Virgo, coming out of Leo, right? So Venus is moving very quickly as well, with Mercury coming out of shadow on the same day. And so we have a lot of energy transitioning into Virgo this week. And Venus in Virgo in itself is, now that we're moving out of the Venus in Leo stage, which is about the understanding and the processing of the heart, right? The filtration of the heart, and the acknowledgement of what we deeply, at the core of ourselves, desire, right? With our heart frequency, understanding our heart frequency, right? And living into it, becoming it, and seeing what we will become committed to, right? We will become committed to our desires with Venus and Leo. But Venus in Virgo is moving into this phase of looking at our projects, looking at our career, looking at what we're creating, looking at our lifestyle, and looking at our relationships, of course, with a perspective that is drilling down on the need for improvement, right? The need to fix, the need to solve, and the need to purge as well. Purge in the sense that we are becoming better, right? We're making it more refined, more something that works better for our day-to-day lives, right? Whereas the burst of fire that came through with Venus and Leo, now it needs to be grounded, right? Grounded energy. So everything sort of becomes its own little project, right? So as we're going about the tasks and the work to get it done, right? To organize all of these different elements of our lives, right, into a cohesive whole, something that is proper for our lives, right? It's the understanding that we can make it happen, right? We can solve the riddle, the unsolvable riddle that we've been stuck in for the past year now, right? Year and a half. And we can fix, we understand that we can fix the seemingly irreparable, the unfixable, the seemingly broken, especially because this new moon will be in opposition to Chiron retrograde, which is bringing up all of the wounds, right? All of our past, all of our history, all of our unconscious blockages. And we're looking at it, since this is opposing energy. Opposing energy is always looking at the opposite side of the fence from an objective perspective, versus the conjunction is more of completely being immersed in the frequency. So it is subjective, right? It is very personal and not able to be distinguished from the self, right? Versus the opposition is the distinction, is the myself versus the other, right? And Chiron being in opposition to all of this, we are looking at our wounds and our history and our karmic patterns, right, from an objective perspective. We're able to analyze, and we're able to pinpoint exactly where the pain stems from, right? We're able to pinpoint what has kept us in this loop. We're able to look at the story from a bird's eye view, right? From the Hawkeye view, especially with this, yeah, with it being in Virgo, especially very precise, very analytical, almost, what is the word? Diagnosing what our pain is, right? And prescribing the lifestyle and the needs of what will be required in order to fix this heretofore unresolvable riddle, this pile of mess that has been sort of sucking and draining our energy from being able to move forward. This feeling of being lost at sea, right? This feeling of not being able to bring all the parts of yourself together, not being able to integrate, right? Because there is this black hole that we've all been sort of sucked into with Chiron and Pisces, right? But it's also the healing of that. This is a very healing new moon because it's requiring us to pull us up by our bootstraps, right? And recognizing the bootstraps, recognizing where we can create, where we can bring the rain to, and the healing solvent to the invisible parts of ourselves. The parts of ourselves that have been actually stuck, right? Not just our physical lives, but the psychic body, right? The psychic pain. We're healing the psychic pain now. And this psychic pain dates back generations even, right? Because it doesn't come from you. What comes from Pisces never really comes from us, right? From an individual. Because it is the last sign of the zodiac. It is the some would say the garbage collector of the zodiac, right? The repository of every single thought, every single emotion, every single entity that has existed and will ever exist in our universe. And with that, with all of that we're being forced to look at, right? We come to a point, to a turning point, to a fork in the road where we make our own decisions. And the fork in the road is the path between choosing a life of purity, a life of that comes from living in the heart, right? That comes from actualizing the heart, not just, dreaming of the heart, which is sort of a Piscean, Aquarian / Leo type of energy, right? But I say Leo because we're moving into this next stage in our evolution that has to do with the Leo archetype, right? So it's not just about dreaming about our desires, right? Not just about dreaming about our heart, but living into it, actualizing it, becoming it, integrating it into every single dimension and layer of our psychic bodies, right? Our psychic body, our mental body, our emotional body, our physical body, especially. Anchoring it into concretization. And this has been the hardest thing to do for us thus far, especially for the spiritual community, which has been sort of promoting the usage of power, right? The usage of manifestation. Not really giving credence to what may be an individual's actual desires, right? Sort of looking at everything from the perspective of needing it to be pure, you know, in the sense of how others define purity, right? Versus your own definition of purity, which purity in and of itself, virginity, which is what Virgo rules, is ourselves, our essence, with the absence of any environmental influence, any other substance, any other essence that tampers with or contaminates or corrupts our own frequency, right? Which includes other people's opinions, right? Which includes other people's perceptions of what truth is, what purity is. Because purity is subjective to each and every one of us, is individual in that sense that only we can be who we are, right? Only we can serve in the way that we were born and designed to serve. Only we can participate as ourselves in the greater story that all of this is bringing us into, right? And only we can decide what our journey is. And only we can decide how to live it. All of this Virgo energy is coming to this need to sow new seeds and to cut old weeds. Sowing new seeds for the future, for a future identity, especially with Uranus in quincunx over to this new moon, which is the look at and the need for adjustment to the new identity. The new identity that we have been cultivating throughout this year while Uranus was direct, right? Now we come to Uranus being retrograde in Aries, preparing to go into Taurus next year in May, right? Which will be the fruition of whatever we're becoming now. It will be the physical force of chaos, right? Very, very physical, a physicalized version of the changes that we've been making within our own identity. And before that happens, we have to prepare, right? We have to look at ourselves as a puzzle in and of itself. And we're putting the pieces of our identity together. But in order to do that, everything has to line up. Says Virgo, says the new moon in Virgo, right? Everything has to line up. It can't just be one blob of an identity. It can't just be one blob of a person, of an individual. It has to be organized, be categorized, be laid out, and clean, right? Let's make it efficient. Let's make it something that works. Let's make it something that is grounded and anchored in this reality and in our physical world, right? So I'm sorry about that, you guys. In order to do that, right? In order to make it work, in order to make it efficient, our identities, right? In order to make our identities efficient in our physical world, we have to sow the seeds, sowing new patterns of behavior, sowing new habits, right? And cutting out those that no longer serve us, those that belong in the old world, in the old identity, in the old sort of definition of what we have been, of what we used to be, and what we're growing out of now. So lots of growing pains involved, especially with Saturn being in square to this new moon. Slightly, not exact, but it does have a 6-degree orb, so it is having an effect. Friday, the energy shifts again. On the 22nd of September, we have the sun moving into Libra, which is beginning the autumn equinox, right? And this equinox is, especially with the moon being in Scorpio at the time of this equinox, we're moving into the period of relationship definition. And what this means is, as we look back, right? As we look back at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the astrological new year, which began on March 20th, right? When the sun moved into Aries. Excuse me. When the sun moved into Aries, this was beginning a whole new year, yes, but a whole new definition of self. What will we become over this next year, over the cycle of this next year, over the cycle of 2017, right? And so now we meet the halfway mark of this year, right? In Libra, this is the organization and the balancing of all of the different players in our play, right? But the different areas, right? How does it all coalesce together? How do we put everything in its proper place, right? This is Libra. This is systems of order. Ordering the systems of our lives, ordering the areas of our lives, the different layers of our lives, and the different relationships. So this is a very relationship-oriented time, not only romantic, but in every single societal area of our lives, especially with Jupiter being in Libra, preparing to come into Scorpio on October 10th, which is the beginning of the new chapter, right? But the Sun in Libra is urging us to put everything in its proper place, everything in our world in its proper place. As we shift our identity, as we shift our roles, everything else needs to shift along with us. So with the moon in Scorpio, and the moon in Scorpio will be in the early stages of Scorpio, so it will be conjuncting Jupiter in Libra, which is preparing to make an exact opposition to Uranus next week. It already is making this opposition, so we're feeling the pressure already, but it will be exact on the 28th of September. So this is a very powerful time, right? This whole entire 3-month period is a very powerful time to change our lives in ways we've never seen before, right? Because Jupiter opposing Uranus is it only comes around every other decade, right? Every 12 to 14 years or so, right? And we're changing, right? We're changing. We're changing everything. We're changing who we are. We're changing how we relate to other people. We're changing our relationships. We're choosing what we're taking with us and what we're not, right? We're making huge, major life decisions that will change the course of not only history itself, but the history of our lives, right? This is a marking point in the history of our time here, of our lives here. And we can birth everything we've ever wanted. This is happening in cardinal signs. Cardinal being the initiative force of life, right? The life force itself. And these being big planets that are having to do with expansion and potential and the unknown and radical shifts and a higher degree of perspective over the entire arc of our lives, right? We have the ability and we have the potential now to change everything from the bottom up, right? Just by sheer belief and willpower. But with it being cardinal, there will need to be a very driven, determined, and initializing force. So we have to take our own action to make the changes, of course, but it is imperative now to take action. And over this next week, coming into next week, these next 2 weeks, right, are big, is a big pressure time, a pressuring time to make the biggest decisions of our lives, right? To make the decision of what our life will be about ultimately. These next 3 months are just playing that out, right? It's about getting everything into order and looking at our desires. With the moon in Scorpio, we're looking at what we want and what we will take and what we will commit to ultimately in the long run. And the moon will be in Libra before this happens. The moon will be in Libra on Thursday and early Friday, right? The moon will be in Libra also on Wednesday, but it will be conjuncting Jupiter, which has just come out of shadow, which has just come out of the time loop it has been in since as well February of 2017, earlier this year, which is when it went retrograde. It went retrograde at 23 degrees of Libra, and now it is at around 25, 26 degrees, and it's out of its shadow phase, right? It's come out of shadow, so it's a new territory. Jupiter's a new territory, and Jupiter loves to be a new territory because it's looking to expand its horizons. It's looking to grow. It's looking to get to the other side, right? And this other side has to do with the other. It has to do with relationships. It has to do with love. It has to do with balance, the balancing of not only the different elements of our lives, but the different timelines, right? With the balancing the future with the past and the present, allowing it to all coalesce in one. We're looking to the future, but how do we balance it, right? How do we converge timelines in a sense that the future is irrelevant because the future becomes our present? This is the question we're all asking now. And it will be in quincunx over to Chiron as well. So it is making the adjustment as we expand, as we grow into these new decisions we're making, as we are committing to a new life. There's a great degree of adjustment we have to make to our own pain, right? We have to find new ways of being comfortable along the journey. And this doesn't necessarily come easy because we tend to carry our past with us as a sort of badge of honor, right? But how do we look at that? How do we look at our past in a way that is able to use the assets and the fruits of what the past represented for us, right? What we got from it, what we harvested from our past, and how do we use its resources in a way that becomes beneficial to us, in a way that sort of flows into the new life. It's about being strategic, and it's about listening, right? From a higher perspective. Seeing the bigger picture and adjusting what you see in the grand scheme of things to your life personally. So this weekend, from Friday coming into the weekend, is a very, very initializing type of energy, because we're coming into the cardinal sign of Libra, the season of Libra, which is driven and motivated to go, right? To move. And we're moving now, right? As we have been getting the details in order through the Virgo season, as we have been cleaning up, and as we have been processing, right? Processing how we can adjust our reality to our future. Now it's time to move into it. Now it's time to balance everything out. Now it's time to put everything in its proper place, right? So coming into the weekend, beginning on Friday too, we have Mars opposing Neptune. Mars coming into opposition to Neptune retrograde, and Mercury coming into trine to Pluto. So this is a very good energy, because it's allowing us to see our power from a different perspective. It's allowing it. This is a very productive time, as well as a time of absolute clarity in regards to our ambition and what we desire, and the ability to sort of pronounce it in a way that or announce it in a way that is powerful, right? Looking at our own power and being able to express it clearly for others to understand is how we change our world. And Mars opposing Neptune, coming into this weekend as well, is drilling into the mess, right? Getting right into it as we have been processing, you know, everything that we need to do, every little task and detail that needs to be mended, right? Everything that needs to be fixed and improved, including ourselves, including our minds, right? Including our monkey minds, especially. Mars actually gets the work done because it is the motor of our solar system. And Mars in Virgo is the cleanup crew, right? So it opposing Neptune now, it's going in there like full force with its gear and its equipment and everything it needs to get the job done, right? And this is a very as we're being faced with all of this subconscious, unconscious clutter that we've been inhabiting for a long time now, with Neptune and Pisces. This is a very deconstructive as well as a constructive time. So it's like bringing the not the hammer, but the ball and chain, whatever those things are called, that knock a house down, right? That that destroy and obliterate the house that had been set there before. Now, as we take that, as we destroy everything that's been, right, we construct from scratch and from the remains of the old house, right? We build a new foundation. We build the new house. We build the new life, right? And overall, this is a time to get it done, right? This is a time to move. This is a time to make adjustments, to make decisions, and to continue chiseling away at whatever you think is messy, at whatever you think is dirty, and whatever you think is draining you, right? What is draining you? Look at every single thing, you know, make a list if you have to. Virgo, you know, kind of requires lists, but look at everything in your life that you feel is draining your energy in a subtle way, right? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be, you know, something grandiose or anything. Just the little things, right? Like, I sit too much at my desk, and so the adjustment I need to make, since this is draining my energy in a sense, maybe perhaps I need to make adjustments in my schedule to you know, take more walks or go outside more, or, you know, do little tiny things, make little tiny adjustments step by step in your life to make yourself more comfortable here, right? To make your life better, to make it more efficient, to get more done, right? So that you can be present here, because this is all about the presence of yourself and how you integrate this future that's like coming at you like a tidal wave, this future that you're looking at. How do you just build the space for it within you? How do you build the sanctity of the new life, the new future, right? The new you into the present moment, day by day, step by step, because this is, you know, Virgo rules craftsmanship. It rules the fine details of creation, of manifestation, of artistry. And where we are the craftsmen of our lives right now, right? So yeah, by the end of this week, by Sunday, coming into Monday, we'll be having Mercury, by the evening of Sunday, we'll be having Mercury squaring over to Saturn, which is kind of a high pressure, kind of a schizophrenic even type of energy, especially because Mercury's in a mutable sign and Saturn's in a mutable sign. So it's like, okay, how do I get this all in order, right? Because Mercury wants order, and Saturn is kind of like, you know, Saturn being in Sagittarius is kind of like, be open to everything, right? Don't close yourself off to anything. It's even though you're making the commitment to your future, it's still, you know, you have to walk the path, you have to walk the journey. It's not black and white, you know. Make it colorful, make it something. I'm getting the quote from, I believe, Star Trek. Go where no man has gone before, right? We're going where no man has gone, something like that, right? Saturn in Sagittarius is requiring us to go where no man has gone before. And with that, we cannot rely on plans per se. Even though we're making the plans with, you know, everything in Virgo, it's inevitable that there will be a plan made. But to be open to the adjustment of the plan and the colorfulness of what's to come along the journey towards the destination, right? So yes, there are a lot of edits to be made, but the real editing is just in the perception of where we're going, right? The perception of where we're going, meaning you have to control your thought process. It doesn't come easily, right, to control your mind, to control the monkey mind, to control, you know, the fear of not being able to, you know, get there. Perhaps because you don't see it immediately, right? Mercury in Virgo is very, you know, black or white in the sense that it is, it can be, you know, it can be pessimistic because it is very pragmatic, right? So, you know, there is the whole notion of the need to be realistic, which isn't negative at all, but it's about editing the parts of yourself that believes you can't change, right? That's the biggest thing about this week, especially, and this new moon, which starts it off. And this whole Virgo season, what this whole Virgo season has been about, is asking and chiseling away at the notion, at the old belief system that says we can't change, right? Or that it's hard to change, or that it's impossible to change, right? We're throwing it all out the window, right? As we rebuild our own foundation in a new way, as we change our lives forever with Jupiter opposing Uranus now. Nothing will ever be the same again. We will never be the same again. And that's the scariest thing. It can be the scariest or the most exciting thing about this week and about this whole new shift, right? But the edits come in the voices that tell you where you're stuck and where you will never be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So yes, so next week Jupiter, there's a lot of changes getting ready next week. So, you know, everything that's kind of coming in now is what is going to be part of this new chapter. So take a look at everything and be extremely aware and awake at what's getting ready to unfold, right? So yes, okay, so next week we have Jupiter opposing Uranus exact, which I've been talking a lot about throughout this video, and I will continue to talk about until we get there, right? And I will be here to discuss it. And the trippy thing about it too is that at the same time as this is happening, this big conversation we're having between these two planets, Pluto, the most potent planet in our solar system as well, right? The most powerful, comes direct on the 28th. So there's a lot pointing to the 28th. Mark it in your calendar if you have to. But as Pluto comes direct next week, there will be a first quarter square of the moon in Capricorn, which will be conjuncting it, which is as an astrologer, I just kind of go giddy over, because it's very there's a very karmic feeling to it, right? Almost like a feeling of destiny shifting, a feeling of the wheels, the wheels turning. The story is shifting for us in every area of our lives. Everything that has been and everything that will be is kind of converging into what this conversation will be. Okay, so enough hype, right? Let's get there. I will be here to discuss it next week. So thank you again, everyone, for watching this video. I hope you all have an amazing week. I hope you all have an amazing new moon and are finding your own lifeboat through this ocean of mysterious, you know, the mysterious unknown, right? The mysterious beyond. if you know what that reference is for, anyone who was born in the 90s. But okay, so yes, thank you everyone for watching this video. I will see you again next week. If you would like a personal reading with me, I do have links in the description for you to be able to do so. As well, be on the lookout for your September forecast, as they will be coming out pretty soon, as well as October, which is fast approaching. We are already at the end of September now. It has gone by completely at a lightning speed type of pace, which is a very mutable type of energy, very mutable Virgo type of energy, right? Scatterbrained all over the place. But I will see you all next week, and have a wonderful, wonderful new moon.